there is something about a name. Because sometimes when you step into a new purpose and into a new calling and into a new chapter of your life, you get a new name. Take Abraham and Sarah in the Old Testament. When God first called them, their names were Abram and Sarai. But once they become obedient to the calling of God on their life and they begin to follow Him and they start a new purpose and a new calling and a new chapter in their life, their name, Abram meant exalted father and Sarai meant princess. But once they step into their calling, God renames them. And He renames them Abraham, which means the father of many nations, which he would become. And He renames her Sarah, which no longer just means princess, but it means my princess. So they have a new name, a new calling, a new purpose. Or take Jacob from the Old Testament. He was born, and Jacob was the name given to him, and that name means deceiver. And honestly, that's how he lived most of his life. He was a deceiver, a manipulator, constantly tricking people to get his own way until he finally responded to the calling of God on his life. And when he does, God renames him and says, hey, you're no longer going to be called Jacob, the deceiver. You're now called Israel. And He ties him directly to the mission and the purpose that God has for him on the earth. Or when Jesus first meets Peter. When He first meets Peter, his name isn't Peter. His name is actually Simon. But the moment he meets him, Jesus looks at him and says, hey, you are Simon, but from now on, you're going to be called Cephas, which really is translated Peter, and that name means rock. Now, what Peter didn't know in that moment is what that name would mean later on. Because Jesus would go on in Matthew chapter 16 to tell Peter, hey, Peter, you are the rock on which I am going to build my church. You see, Jesus gave Peter a new name that would define and embody his mission and his purpose and his calling. And so sometimes, church, listen to me. When you step into a new season, when you step into a new calling, when you step into a new moment, a new understanding of what you're called to be, you get a new name. Now, church, what I've been dying to tell you, what I've been dying to announce to you all today is that right now we are sitting in that moment. We're in the moment of stepping into a new chapter, a new season, a renewed calling, a renewed understanding of what it means to be followers of Jesus and what it is to be His church. And we've been saying it for weeks now, but the church, the local church, is called to be a movement of Jesus' kingdom, that we have a going faith, not simply a gathering faith. We were never called to a building, but we were called to be a movement of Jesus' kingdom in our city. So today, let's jump wholeheartedly into that renewed calling, that fresh understanding, with both feet ready to go. Let's be what Jesus called us to be. Let's be the movement of His kingdom. Are you ready? Here we go. And forever, let this name be a reminder of our calling. Come on, church, let's step into it. Our new name, our new calling. Come on, church, say with me, Movement Church. Come on, church, let that name embody who we are. Always be a reminder of who we are, that we're a movement, that the church is called. Listen, we're not simply a church, but we're a movement of Jesus' kingdom. Come on, our name is always going to remind us to be moving Jesus' kingdom forward all throughout Central Virginia, bringing heaven here to our neighbors, our streets, our schools, our businesses, to everywhere we go. There's no going back. I wanted to say it so badly to you. I wanted to say welcome to Movement Church earlier, but I couldn't. But now I can. Church, listen to me. Let the name be a reminder constantly of our calling, Our calling is to be a movement. Our calling is to see people move from death to life in Jesus' name. Jesus' church is a movement. Come on, we don't tear down the gates of hell by standing still. We got to be a movement. If we want to see heaven brought here, we got to be a movement. If we want to see people living not only with life eternal, but with life abundant, we got to be a movement. And from now on, from this movement forward, let our name be a reminder of our calling, that we will always be a movement of Jesus's kingdom. Come on, church, let's celebrate today.